Hi, my name is Zakari, or YAAH-WAAH, and I am a messenger of the Creator. I do not belong to any religious group or institution. I am not a Muslim, a Christian, or a Jew. I am a believer seeking out the truth and spreading the truth. I am a YAAH-WAAH from the tribe of Yaahwaah, whom they call Judah. My mission is to spread the true name of the Creator, which is Yaahwaah. And I've been on this journey for a minute. I used to say Yahweh Elohim. Then one day I prayed and I asked the Most High to guide me and reveal to me what I do not know, because He is the all-knowing. And He told me to read the letters YHWH. And it sounded like, and it's the way we already breathe. First, I want to start off by saying that I didn't leave Yahweh, Lord, or God out of anger or rebellion. I caught on those names out of real love and devotion. The search wasn't driven by doubt, but intimacy. If someone I love has a covenant name, I want to call on them by their actual name. The moment I stopped accepting inherited silence was honestly when I moved out of my parents' home. No shade to them, because they're probably gonna click on this video, but I started studying for myself and not just repeating things that my father tells me. I searched for the truth, and I got here because I wasn't afraid of being wrong. Matter of fact, I wanted to be wrong so that I can be corrected, instead of defending traditions that was passed down to me. I was open to the truth. Asking honest questions is not about the Father's name, is not a sin. It's a prophetic promise in the book of Isaiah and in Zephaniah. Isaiah 52:6 says, "Therefore my people shall know my name. Therefore in that day I am the one who is speaking. Here I am." Zephaniah, "For then I will restore to the people a pure language, that they may all call on the name of Yaahwaah, to serve Him with one accord." You clicked on this video because something in you is already listening. Maybe you've been sitting with a question you couldn't quite name, a feeling that the name you were given for the Creator did not fit the one you were reaching toward. Maybe you noticed in a prophet's name, or in a song you heard growing up, or in a moment of prayer where words felt borrowed rather than your own. Whatever brought you here, you are welcome. This is not a lecture, and this is not a debate, and it is not a demand that you agree with everything you are about to listen to. It is an invitation from one seeker to another to walk slowly through something that changed the way I hear, the way I pray, and the way I understand who I am. Yasharal, or Isaiah, said it long before any of us arrived. "My people shall know my name," not a title, not a substitute, the name. And Zephaniah carried the same promise forward, that a day would come when a pure language would be restored, and people from every background would call on that name together, not divided by tradition, not separated by institution, but gathered by the sound itself. And I believe that we are in that season. I'm not standing here as someone who has arrived. I am a student, someone who one day stopped accepting inherited silence and started asking honest questions, the kind that keeps you up at night, the kind that leads you somewhere unexpected. What I found was not a new religion. It was an old name, hidden in plain sight, tucked inside the name of prophets, carved into stone by ancient hands, preserved in languages the silencers never reached. I'm not asking you to accept everything here. I'm asking you to walk it through with me, with open hands and open mind, in the quiet confidence that the Father is not offended by your questions. He is the one who promised to make himself known. So come as you are, bring your doubts, bring your background, bring the name you have always used, and hold it alongside what you find here. Let the two sit together and see what the Father does with that. His word to you today is the same one he spoke through Yasharal. Here I am, walk with me. My parents thought that the number 13 was unlucky and demonic when I was born, until I was born on the 13th of the third month. In Auber tradition, the number 13 is far from unlucky. It represents boundless and infinite love. The 13 attributes of mercy, the 𐤄𐤅𐤄𝐿 were revealed to Mashah or Moses on Mount Sinai after the crisis of the golden calf. When all-seeing laws, Yaahwaah revealed these attributes as a covenant that his mercy would never be returned empty-handed. For a long time, I sat in classrooms where the letters were treated as static history, dead symbols on a page, but the student of the Most High does not settle for tradition when the truth is written in the very breath we use to speak. This book began the moment I stopped looking at the Latin V of the rest and started seeing the Semitic wall as the physical hook that joins us to the source. It wasn't an easy tradition because accuracy oftentimes requires standing alone, even when those you love see a different map. But choosing scriptural and linguistic integrity over comfort led me somewhere I did not expect. The raw is the key, the ancient frequency that carries the breath through the body. We all have a purpose, and I believe that I was born for such a time as this, to take the 13 of my own life and use it to restore the 26 of his name. Through these pages of grace, upon discovering him, I discovered myself. This preface is my talk, my mark, a departure from the modern interpretations, and my entry into the Lashon Kodesh, the pure language restoration. Before I continue with this video, I want to be transparent about something that shapes everything in this video. This restoration draws from both the Torah, Psalms, and the Quran, not as a theological debate and not to pit one community against another. I hope both as divine witnesses sent from the same living truth, preserved for different seasons of revelation. The Torah carries the name, the Quran carries the sound, and together they offer a more complete picture than either gives alone. This is not a new idea. It reflects the pattern of the Most High himself. He revealed to Abraham as El Shaddai before he revealed his name to Mashah or Moses. He appears to have preserved the vowel sound in Arabic for over 1,400 years. While the name was being silenced in the West, these are not coincidences to me, they are coordinates. So whether you come from the mosque, the assembly, or neither, you're welcome here, and this is not a debate. It's a restoration, and the Father left breadcrumbs in both houses for those with eyes to see. First, we need to look at late Masoretic vowel points. This was 700 through 1000 AD. It introduced foreign sounds and substitution rules, Kri Ketev, like Adonai, to silence the name. So Paleo-Aber, which they call Hebrew, approximately 1000 BC to 200 BC, is the original pictorial script of our ancestors, a breath-based language that carries the natural ah sounds within each letter. In this stage, there were no written vowel dots or dashes, only the vowel consonants that formed the word. In the Masoretic text, developed approximately 700 to 1000 AD. This version appeared nearly a millennium later. It introduced 𝐤𝐄𝐅 vowel points as an attempt by scholars to preserve pronunciation. Within this restoration framework, those marks are observed to have introduced foreign vowel sounds that were not present in the ancient constant anchored texts. In Paleo-Abar appears within this view to represent the original unfiltered breath of the word, while the Mashah text is an interpreted, vocalized tradition shaped by dialects of the nations where the people were scattered. To move toward the original, this restoration suggests stripping away those later vowel additions to return to the ancient YAAH sound. When we look at YHWH in Paleo-Abar, it's YAAH the hand, Hey the reveal, WAAH the hook, Hey the breath of life. And together within this framework is Yaahwaah. In ancient oral-based language, the consonants were designed to be carried by the breath, and the breath comes first. The H of Hey is not a consonant that produces a breath sound trailing after it. It is the sound of breath itself. Exhaled outward is Ah, and swallowed inward is Ha. Therefore, Ah is not an added vowel riding behind the consonant. It is the letter standing at the front of the sound, the same way it stands in the front of the body on response in Ah. Say behold out loud and notice which sound leaves you first. It is never Ha. Yaahwaah preserves that order. In the Masoretic text, the vowel points were introduced as a guide for pronunciation. But as we follow the trail, what was added and what was removed and what was left intact, a pattern begins to emerge. One invites reflection, where these dots preserving the name or gradually redirecting the reader away from its own original sound. By layering additional sounds over the ancient off frequency, the Masoretes, whether intentionally or through the slow drift of tradition, appear to have created distance between the reader and the original pronunciation. What was once spoken freely because something whispered, substituted, and eventually silenced. So I could show you guys better than what I could tell you. And anytime the word Lord is in all caps in the Bible, it is actually YHWH, and that is Yaahwaah. I'm going to show you the actual breakdown. So here I'm in eSword. You could download this on the App Store for just $2.99. And then we just click here, H3068. They put Yehovah, but as you can see, the Hebrew letters YHWH, there is no V. The is a modern invention. I had to make a chart for this. So as you've seen it in the concordance, it said Yehovah. But as you can see here, this is YHWH. See, these are the same letters. And then you get the hand, behold, WAAH, which is the nail, and behold. And you see there, these are the same exact letters. Then you get YAAH-WAAH, which is why Yaahwaah is a bit backwards, because it replaces the behold letter for the actual H letter, which is Haf, which they pronounce as Haf, but this isn't right because there was no K sound, so it is Haf. However, that's not the letter that's there. It is this letter. And I need to talk about the pronoun debate, because throughout this restoration, you will notice that the word he attached to the most high. However, if you look at the strong concordance, every time the word he is mentioned, it doesn't have a singular word for it. As you see, it says he called, and then there's only one concordance here. Palar aber carries no neuter. So every noun, every verb, every pronoun falls into one of two grammatical houses, masculine or feminine. There is no third der. When the language needed to carry actions of the one who told Mashah only, I am that I am. It ain't built entirely from the verb to be and carry no reference to a body. The grammar itself was a binary that had nothing to do with the anatomy and everything to do with the limits of a two-gendered tongue. As you see here, I just showed you, anytime it says he, his, him, scattered across English translations of the Torah, they are not separate words sitting aside the aber line at all. Aber is a language where the door of an action is folded directly into the verb's own conjunction. I also think it's important that I also show y'all in the Quran, anytime it says he in the Quran, it doesn't actually say he. It's just put there for readability in English. As you can see, it is in parentheses, and then when you click on the letter for the word, it says the one who, not he is the one. And then even when we check the corpus, we can see it says Aladi, which means the one who, not he is the one. No freestanding pronoun required. English cannot leave a verb bare like that. It needs an explicit subject beside it. So the English page inserts a he as a structural necessity of English grammar. It's scaffolding built to hold the English sentence up, not a word carried from the aber breath. It is translating. Now, none of this argues that scripture is silent on how the Most High is imagined. The YAAH-WAAH, the spirit hovering over the face of the deep, which is right here in verse 2. This word here, H7307, spirit, is actually a feminine noun, part of speech, noun feminine. And then in Deuteronomy 32, verse 18, it actually rebukes Yasharal for forgetting the block who birthed you. The verb is a birthing verb, not a fathering one. And then in Isaiah 49:15, it says, can a woman forget her suckling child, that she should not have compassion on the son of her womb? Yeah, they may forget, yet I will not forget thee. Now, in this verse, it places the Most High as at the image of a nursing mother who cannot forget her child. And then again in Isaiah, in chapter 66:13, it says, as one whom his mother comforts, so I will comfort you, and you shall be comforted in Jerusalem. The grammar defaulted to one door, and the imagery walked through both. Now, I do not offer this as a demand that the viewer strips every pronoun from their prayer life. Language needs a shorthand. Even this video leans on he throughout for better understanding comprehension. It's the same way a person leans on a childhood name even after learning a fuller one. But I wanted to name it plainly. The way the YAAH was named plainly, the way the ah was named plainly, and the way the hey was named plainly. Not everything English inherited from the tradition is equally rooted in the ancient breath. Some of it is scaffolding built around the name and not the name itself. So the creator is, he is not a man, she is not a woman. The Most High is one who is, and every pronoun reaches toward that one, and every tongue is a human hand reaching toward something that was never asking to be gendered, only to be known. Okay, so the second witness would be the Hebrews. They call it Hebrews, which is Abar's fling the 70-80 Roman siege. And they carried the Yaahwaah and Yah sounds into the rest, southern and central Africa, kingdom of Judah, YAAH maps, Limba oral traditions, and Bantu dialects. The oral vaults of mothers naming their children preserved the law, even when the scribes modified the text. When the Hebrews fled into the interior of Africa, they did not just carry their scrolls, they carried their identity. I actually had to draw the map myself because they don't want us to know the truth, but I'm gonna show it up here, and then I'm gonna show the 1747 𐤄𤅊 map that shows regions labeled as Kingdom of Judah or Judea. These names may stand as physical markers of migration route, while scholars in Europe debated Jehovah versus Lord. The dispersed may have carried the living frequency of the name across the continent through oral tradition. Even the prophets carried the name, the divine signature as time capsules, such as Yasharal or Yeremahu or Alawaah. And then my third point is the Arabic and Quranic preservation. Classical Arabic preserves the rounded open wall. I actually drew a chart of this. I'm going to place it up here for over 1,400 years. And YAAH-WAAH, whom they call Eve, the mother of all living, carries the exact back half of the frequency of the name Alawaah, preserved intact across traditions. I can actually show y'all this in my Quran. They have the YHWH here, and the wall has been preserved as WAAH, as in wart or as in water. There's a prophecy in the book of Hosea, the Baal prophecy, and it's the shift to Lord. And it says, "And it shall be at that day that thou shalt call me Ishi, and shalt call me no more Bali." The scripture itself explicitly anticipates a historical moment when the generic title Lord would be permanently set aside in favor of something far more personal. In the original language, Bali, H1180, it literally means my Lord or my Master, a title that signifies ownership or distance and hierarchical dominance, when a true name, Yaahwaah, was gradually systematically replaced by the title Lord across Western translations. The personal confidential relationship with the Father was exchanged for a sterile title of an overseer, and this was the exact linguistic replacement strategy used by ancient Canaanite pagans who worship Baal. Now, let's break down this word Ishi. Now, in modern Hebrew, it looks like this, and this is actually the Aleph letter, and Aleph as an apple is not the same. It's not the same as A, so it won't be the same as man behold. This right here is actually the ox head, and it would be pronounced Ayesha, and even though they're both A's, it's pronounced way different. So think of lowercase and uppercase a. Institutional scholars flatten the aleph into a weak English vowel placeholder, but aleph is the ox head, and it represents raw power, leadership, and ultimate source. Mechanically, it is a glottal stop, producing a sharp, clean, authoritative uppercase strike at the back of the throat. It does not lazy breath like glitter. It hits vocal matrix with power. So when we restore the strength of the ox head to the text, the soft whisper of Ishi transforms into the true high vibrational covenant declaration. Ayesha, it means my covenant man or my husband, and its highest uncorrupted vocal frequency. Now I know what some people are thinking. Some traditionalists will actually say that using set apart names is witchcraft. But the word God comes from Proto-Germanic Gudin, pagan idols. whereas YAAH-WAAH is the ancestral breath of the Father spoken out of covenant respect. So in the Quran 3:19 it says, "Indeed, the deen before Alawaah is Islam. You shall love Yaahwaah, your Alawaah, with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your mind." Matthew 22:37. The word translated as religion in that verse is not religion at all. It is deen. Deen does not mean religion. It is a way of life. Now, if you look at the etymology of deen, it's D-Y-N, and in modern English translation is religion, which is just a translator's shortcut. And this happened simply because when European scholars translated Arabic text into English, they didn't have a single word that meant a complete lifestyle of accountability and daily submission. So they mapped it to the nearest Western equivalent they had, which is religion. And then over centuries, modern Arabic speakers adopted the English Western framework using deen as a direct translation for religion, comparing different religions. If you look up deen in a modern English dictionary today, it will tell you it means religion, but that's a translational shortcut. In classical Arabic, the root dyn doesn't mean a church building or a denomination or a human institution. It literally just means the way of life, daily conduct, and moral accountability. Translators forced the word religion onto deen because English didn't have a word for a complete 24/7 way of living. So, to put it simply, the word deen is not compatible with the English word religion, which is exactly why the Quran says they alter the message with their tongues. Okay? So, like I was saying, it's a way of life, a path, conduct, a daily submission to the Most High. It is not an institution. It is not a building you enter on a designated day. It is a living, breathing commitment to walk in the laws and morals the Father set from the very beginning. Now let's look at the root SLM because it runs like a river through the entire word of the Most High across both houses. Salam in Arabic is peace and wholeness. Shalom or shalom in Abar is peace, completeness, restoration. Shalom, shalom, to be complete, to be in right standing. Shalomo, shalomah, Solomon meaning his peace. Yerushalayim, Yerushalayim, Jerusalem, the city of peace, wholeness. The SLM root did not begin with the Arabic revelation. It was already woven into the Abar tongue, into the names of the prophets, into the city where the covenant was established, and another people a different one. The Most High did not give one people a root and another people a different one. He gave humanity one root and let it grow in two directions, one toward the name and one toward the sound. The Most High did not send the Torah to one people and the Quran to another so they could fight over which book is superior. He sent the Torah carrying the name, and he sent the Quran carrying the sound, and he wove the same SLM root through both so that those with eyes to see might recognize they came from the same source. The deen is shalom, the deen is salam, the deen is the ancient path back to Yaahwaah, walked by Mashah, performed by Yaahwaah, preserved in the Quran and now being restored for those who have ears to hear. One more thing I would like to add to this devotional testimony is the visual anagram. In Proverbs 25:2, it says, "It is the glory of Alawaah to conceal a matter and the glory of kings to search it out." This is just a moment to behold. And Alawaah said to Mashah again, "You shall say this to the sons of Yasharal, Yaahwaah, the Alawaahym of your fathers has sent me to you. This is my name forever, and this is my memorial for generations." Exodus 3:15. Now we sing again. We sat by the rivers of Babylon and wept. We hung our harps. We forgot how to sing the name, but the remainder remembered. The remnant returns. The harp comes down. The name is sung again, Yaahwaah. Psalms 137 was the question, and this video is the answer. May this offering help you find a signature of the Father in your own life. As the name could be restored in me, it can be restored in the world. The lighthouse is no longer just a letter on a page. It is a signal fire for the dispersed to find their way home to the Father, whose breath is finally being spoken again.